Ladies and gentlemen, it's Adrian Zdunchuk, CMT Chart and Market Technician. Welcome to today's AMA session with our incredible partners at Hydro. You can know and be familiar with them actually from all the incredible content and the stream of value that they are producing on X at Hydro underscore online underscore. And I'm joined today by my good friend, the very person behind this incredible project, the man of the success, the man of the crypto, the man of uh, well, there are not many as successful people as Reggie, and I'm honored and joined today by Reggie himself. How is it going, Reggie? How are you feeling?
Thank you. That amazing intro, my man. I appreciate you. I'm doing well, bro. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent right now, even better that I see you, my friend. We have a lot on the plate to discuss. So why don't we jump right into it? Because the Hydro, again, this is a huge shout out to yourself, to your incredible team, because you guys are keeping nonstop incredible work. Myself, our team, we're truly blessed to be partners with you, and big supporters and investors and advisors as well. And for those who are not familiarized with Hydro yet, we're talking about, well, at least their Twitter bio, the digital world is changing. That's a bold statement. The old ways of online monetization are outdated. I fully agree with that. It's time for Hydro, the new economic engine to the internet. And what is Hydro? What does it solve?
Sure. In a couple of words, Hydro basically provides an alternative form of monetization for websites and applications without having to use ads. And we use blockchain to do this. Right? Very,
Okay.
very simple explanation. Now, if we drill down on actually how Hydro works and how we do this, without giving context of Gather specifically, but Hydro, how we do this is that we use a freemium based business model where publishers come and sign up. If they like what they see, they go for the paid version. The paid version runs anywhere between $500 to $1,500. Half of that money is used to buy and stake our own token. The other half is collected together with all the other publishers who've made gone for the paid version. It's all collected, and we use that collateral to essentially run validators on multiple L1 and L2s, starting with SUI because we have a large grant from SUI, and then moving over. The next ones are AVAX and NEAR, and the yield generated from these validators is then paid out to the ecosystem and publishers along with our own token. As we go down the line, we'll add more networks, so it could be stuff that's higher risk and new, something like Monad, depending on on the sequencers, if it's decentralized or not. Some things that are lower risks could be Solana, could even be ETH at one point, right? It really depends. That kind of come down to governance at a later stage.
Okay. So let's say imagine I'm a publisher, right? Imagine I'm full of wisdom in the ideal world, which is untrue, right? I'm still learning. There's so much to be learned. Imagine I'm not stupid for a moment. I want to start publishing and start teaching people, start sharing what I find, some findings. Do I need to install some sort of like an app, like a Hydra app, or do I need to kind of like put the code to work on my end on the side?
Yeah. So in the beginning, right now, it's really simple. We'll make it simpler as we go forward. Basically, you come to Hydro.online, you sign up, right? You enter your website. It's going to generate about a script that's maybe 5 lines. You put that between the body and header tags. Sorry, the header and body tags in your backend of your website. Later down the line, there'll be plugins with like WordPress, etc. Some SDKs for the apps.
Okay. So let's say engaging with content, right? Because there's so much to be told about this, so much to be said, from all the social media, from all the X, all the Facebook on X. I know so many cases of people getting shadow banned, on there for like misfitting the algos. The algos right now, I think I saw the announcement earlier today that the big change, some major update to the X algo is coming. So what does it mean truly to engage with content through the lens of Hydra right there?
It's interesting because this question kind of it, it it comes back to a question we get is why are we taking the approach of not being our own platform, like for example being something like an X or being something like a Facebook or YouTube, etc., right? And why are we just essentially provide motion sorry detected at the front door. I should mute that. Why should we know, why do we essentially just provide the tool where any publisher can monetize their existing site, right? So the thing is, because we're not our own platform, we don't host content, we don't um, censor anything. right? That moves the power away from us as quote unquote big tech, or when we reach a certain stage to be called big tech at least, in the hands of the creators. While there are certain rules we have to follow, like I'll take an example. There's a website recently, he was one of our larger websites, but he was caught doing two things. One was essentially just aggregating
Mhm.
illegal streams and putting them on his website from TV channels, and he was using a lot of bot traffic. So that's a very clear case of something we cannot support. But to answer the question, in terms of content, it brings the power back to the creator, and we don't meddle in that. Then, like what you put on your content is 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 your vision, is your prerogative, right? We don't care from that perspective. You want to run it with ads, go ahead. You want to run it with other monetization suites, go ahead. We don't say anything. Hydro works with everything alongside it. That's the beauty of it, to be fair. And it's good for your users, especially you don't run it with ads. To be fair.
Okay. So let's say there's like Google ads, there's obviously the Meta ads or Facebook ads the other day right now. Does it work for Hydro for the entire kind of like protocol for the integration? How does it work? Like, do I add it some sort of like a script to the website so that I integrate it and just make it work, or there are some different browsers? How does it work?
Sorry, just once you have the script, it's running. That's it. You'll If you want to see how much you've earned, etc., you just go to the dashboard, publisher dashboard, go in the back end. You'll see basic stats right now. I think we're in the advanced version is rolling out, or the next version is rolling out. We see more in-depth stats. So right now, you'll see how much time on site per user, how many total sessions you've generated, what is the money you've generated, and then you're also able to communicate with us as support, as we do get tickets from publishers about various different questions, etc. Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say, like how does it differ? How different is that from let's say Google Ads? How different is that from what we know, from what the publishers know already to make money to monetize the content?
Oh, very different. Because this is well, what is ads, right? So you have something called a DSP and SSP. Without trying to get too technical, basically it's you have a buyer and seller, right? And a website essentially has digital inventory. They have real estate on the website, banner ads. You see these small ads on the side, on the left, wherever it may be, right? Those are then sold using a middleman to large advertisers. So, I used to work in the media industry for a little bit. Part of the reason why I started Hydro, or what was Gather. And my CMO is also from the media industry. He's actually a programmatic media buyer. That's his specialty. So what is very apparent is that the issue with media buying or advertising is that it's extremely opaque. So what do I mean by opaque is that if let's say for Hydro Online right now, if I go and sign up and I say, hey, I want to host ads on my website, the middleman might pay me anywhere, will add a markup of 30% up to 1,000%. So while he might pay me $1, right, he's making $3 up to hundreds, and it's a very very opaque industry, and it's been like this for a long time. There are other issues associated with advertising, as an example. So one of them is they geographically restrict um, payment. So if your audience set is from India, Africa, China, they're going to pay you less compared to if your audience is, let's say, US, Western Europe, mainly that, right? We don't discriminate, because for us, it's just about time spent on the website. So it kind of also incentivizes quality content and moves away from the clickbait model, because it doesn't matter if we're not looking for clicks, right? We're looking at how much time is your user spending on your site.
That's genuine. That's bold. That's good. That's good. I'm a big fan of that, right? Because it ultimately translates to way more organic and accurate, accurate accounts, basically for all the creators, for all the viewers at the same time, because this is what it translates to, right? The view time, not only the clicks, just like you mentioned, not only the crazy thumbnails, for clickbaiting everybody to just build
Yeah.
them in. So I like this movement. And speaking of this movement, do you think, Reggie, is that some sort of like a beginning? Is that a new chapter? Is that something new that's not been there before, that is literally making Hydro the first mover?
Yes, I would say so, especially using this type of business model. While there are other Web3 companies that are trying to solve for the same problem using different solutions, so Brave, but again, they use a browser-based system. We evaluated that, like, for the audience specifically, Hydro used to be Gather, right? And Gather was 2018 to 2021 roughly, and then rebranded and pivoted into Hydro. And the main differences being, in Gather we use proof of work, and Hydro essentially we use proof of stake, right? How to Gather work, same thing, trying to provide an alternative form of monetization. And this was actually, like, the story was, or is, I was, after my first startup and after working in the media industry with Publicis Group, someone hired me as a consultant. He's like, "Can you help me monetize my site without using ads?" I said, "That's an interesting question. Let me try." Came across something called CoinHive. CoinHive was for people who are of our age, will maybe remember Pirate Bay. So
Mhm.
Pirate Bay was semi legal and then became illegal because it was a torrent site, and they monetized by using CoinHive. What would happen is you would come to Pirate Bay, your CPU would heat up, your fans would spin, and they were using your system to mine Monero, and that would go back to the Pirate Bay owners. I'm like, whoa, that's incredible. That's scalable revenue, but how they executed was horrible, right? That's what led to Gather. Essentially, it was an L1 using proof of work. So it would be installed on anyone's website, and then proof of work. A visitor would come, their PC was used to mine and secure the Gather blockchain. But we just took out the UX issues. So, like, you wouldn't notice any heat up, you wouldn't notice any fan spinning up, none of that. But we moved away from that model and made a lot of changes in Hydro. I think some of the bigger ones is, because our audience is not specifically Web3, it is Web2, right? It's a much larger audience, granted. I mean, massive, actually. The language that you show these users has to be very different. You kind of almost remove all mentions of cryptocurrency, of blockchain, right? The ones that want to learn about how it works under the hood will. But generally speaking, your average Joe is not going to want to read about what is a validator, what is proof of stake, what is proof of work. I mean, trying to imagine trying to explain to a 45-year-old mother what sharding is, right? She's just going to think we're all lunatics or something, which I think a majority of Web2 world does anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's a very different word right now, and I'm all them. Um, I think on behalf of all the creators of all the community of all the crypto Web3 kind of like a movement. I think that there is this gigantic advantage of being the first mover, right? There's this gigantic, massive gap because you are basically the main motor of the entire kind of like a vehicle. That sets Hydra apart immediately, apart from any other latecomers right there. And what I'm thinking is, are we restricted in terms of the geography? Are there any locations? Are there any countries that are literally restricted, or it's completely indifferent?
I wish the answer was no,
Hmm.
but unfortunately, yes. And it is because we're not like in a non-team without any, registered companies and stuff like that. So we do have to follow some very baseline rules. So one of them being OFAC sanctions, CTF stuff. So
Hmm.
essentially, countries and individuals that are either sanctioned by essentially the states, to be fair.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, we can't monetize them. Anything that has content related to terrorism financing, child pornography, and
Hmm.
I use the word child specifically because we
Hmm.
do have a couple porn sites. It's
Hmm.
what it is. It's legal in their jurisdiction. It's illegal in our jurisdiction. So why
Hmm.
not?
Hmm.
But yeah, anything that breaks the red line, that goes against sanctions and etc., we have to be very careful, and we cannot
Hmm.
monetize this.
Got it. How about the specific criteria, let's say, for the publishers to follow? What sort of like framework do we have to fulfill on?
It's really, really simple. Honestly speaking, the content, what you put on your site is completely up to you. Just make sure you're not breaking the terms of service. So again, you own the content or at least have a license for it. You're not showing again any form of terrorism financing, stuff like that. Hydro.online, sign up as a publisher and install the code and get going. That's basically it.
Hmm. Okay, so that makes sense. What I'm thinking right now is basically because we are. Let me just put the screen back on. Here, this speaking of this partnership, right, with Sui. Congratulations to you on that, by the way. That's a massive step forward. And what I'm thinking in terms of the payouts themselves, right? The monetization, the accounting for that, and the payouts. How does it work in the payout system? Is it actually translated and transmitted, like, against fiat or against SUI, or is it monetized in USDT? How does it work?
So on the front end for the publisher, right? What they're going to see is they're going to essentially just see USDT in their wallet, and they can click a couple buttons after they KYC. They can then use one of the partners to off ramp it in their bank account. On the back end, how it works is actually it's tokens, right? It can be Hydro tokens, it'll be SUI tokens, it'll be Near tokens, it'll be AVAX tokens. But again, the whole point is obfuscating that from the front end, from the publishers, because if you bring that to the front end that, oh, they have now Near, AVAX, this, and this, they might get a little, you know, they'll just get confused, to be more than anything. There's then an option for them to obviously not come in USDT and have it in the original tokens, but as a default, we're enabling it so okay, they get USDT, and if they want to move their bank account, they can very easily, right? The ones that
Mhm.
want to learn will, but the whole point is it's really really important to remove the crypto blockchain angle as much as possible, make it really, really, really stupidly simple for them. I mean, there's a saying, right? KISS, keep it stupid simple. And that's what we follow. And the reason being is that this audience is so big. We're essentially one large marketing funnel for Web2 to come into Web3, right? Because once they're with us, once they're sticky and they're using us for months on months and they're happy, imagine when we are able to tap into their user base. So when I say their user base, not the website, but the users of these websites, right? That becomes very interesting. It opens up opportunities down the road where you can educate them about Web3. Like, for example, we're running, some of our roadmap items as an example. We're running validators on multiple layers, right? Let's say SUI, Near, AVAX, Solana, ETH, whatever it may be. There becomes a nice interoperability layer. A publisher who's now earned, let's say, I don't know, $1,000, right? Instead of moving to their bank account, like, hey, I want to go and speculate, or I want to put that into some kind of staking program on Solana. Great, use within the publisher dashboard. You can then hop from whatever chain it's on and go there, and you can stake right there. There's also, again, a lot of opportunities for education. There's a lot of things you can do when you have a lot of users, as with any product and service, to be fair.
Hmm. How about, how would you address, how does Hydra address basically, the users who are yet to come into crypto? They didn't get a chance to learn anything ever yet about crypto, and yet they want to start publishing. How do we get them on board?
So our customer acquisition strategies mainly revolve around some form of media buying. It sounds funny, advertising, to be fair. Well, I would say advertising, but then we've really hit well on word of mouth within the, let's say, small to medium publishing community, right? Because a lot of these people have been demonetized, or they've been kicked out of AdSense, or they're relying on really really horrible advertisers. Um, so on Reddit specifically, 4chan, in terms of word of mouth, so people come, hey, what the hell is Hydro type of thing, right? And they come, they see about it, they come try it out, right? And then we use some form of digital ads as well. I mentioned, our CMO, he's programmatic media buyer, which is he's an expert at advertising. To be fair, like on the media side, buying and keeping the customer acquisition costs very, very, very low. Very importantly, to be fair, because
Hmm.
um, while crypto is, most projects have some form of token and stuff. I think understanding your unit economics, your customer acquisition costs, and the lifetime value is extremely important. These are three metrics that any business, even if you're not crypto, I mean, even if you're crypto, you should know really, really, really well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, ultimately, unit economics are the very core of the business, right?
Yeah,
Aren't they? So what do we make out of the entire kind of like an AI DEPIN,
sure.
Web3 combination movement that is happening? Is this going in this direction? Are we going to call to literally all those DEPIN projects to get them on board, or is it something more of a conjunction from different angles?
Let's say it's a conjunction more than anything. So in case of hydro, that's that too. It's in case of hydro and what see in the market, to be fair. So in case of hydro, like when we talk about AI, so what we're doing is the big thing for hydro to succeed as a business, as a crypto product, everything is the conversion ratio from freemium to paid users, because that's where the value is created essentially, right? So we pack a bunch of features into the paid version. So, for example, AI analytics, right? Hey, your content was too long here, so you had a higher bounce ratios. Your visitors stayed less. As just example of a feature. Traffic quality, it analyzes what kind of traffic you have coming in. Oh, your traffic is poor, they drop off quick, they're having connection issues, your site's taking too long to load, stuff like that. When we talk about deepen, it's something that's always been interesting to us from Gather. Back then, it was decentralized cloud. Now there are other things. So you look at an ancillary service. So something very simple as a website builder, right? Like right now, you go to Wix, you go to Google Sites, you go to etc. Right? But what if you could build your website within Hydro itself? And the website builder would be stored on our nodes essentially, right? That it opens up again with the large user base. It opens up everything for us, and that's something we're very good at, or been fortunate to do. Is we're able to attract a lot of users fairly quickly without spending too much money.
Okay, then. So, knowing there's one or two questions more, would you be open for taking one or two questions from the audience later on?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. So, you know, knowing that again, as we are getting close to the wrap of the session, since for everybody's attention, Reggie is a very busy man. He's a very successful man. I'm someone that I truly look up to and admire for many years already. While we are actually on it, I do highly recommend so that you go ahead and put a follow button both on the Hydro accounts. Let me get you on this screen. Um, Hydra online, just like I said, Hydro underscore online underscore something that you might want to hit the follow button on, as well as if we go to Reggie, who is an excellent leader and a true inspiring person, something to also consider is hitting the follow button on Reggie account, ultimately because there's so much more that Reggie's is rich with his knowledge of, and like I mentioned, it all like the comment says, all it all sounds solid. Hydro is there as a lining up as a first mover, as a big change to the industry, especially making the content monetization so much easier, so much more fair to all the parties involved, right? Less clickbaits, more true engagement,
Yeah.
more accurate monetization, right? Again, it's just as blockchain, right? There's all the aspects of the blockchain, so it's held of transparency and so on and so forth. So it just makes sense, right? And if it makes sense, there is a question from um overlaps. There's one longer one, right? What's the infrastructure behind using L2 validators as a means for getting reach in Web3? What do we make out of that?
What's the infrastructure behind using L2 validators as a means for? Okay, I think I'll take that in two questions, because one's asking about the infrastructure specifically, and then
Mhm.
how is that used to target Web3, getting reach in Web3. So we don't go after Web3 specifically, and that's from a business and from a practical standpoint, right? When we target Web3, it's on the back end, and specifically projects, communities, or new layer ones, layer twos, that we want to fractionalize, right? How it works down the line, let's say 6 months, 1 year type of thing. The governance council will essentially look at new projects or older projects, whatever it may be, and kind of decide, hey, we should move collateral, and we should fractionalize this specific company or project, right? Because maybe it's either two things. It's more risk or less risk. It'll provide more risk. It's giving higher APYs and earnings for the whole ecosystem. Less risk, it's less risky, and it's less earnings. The infrastructure is the main thing that comes down to it, without getting too technical specifically. Uses different type of keys and how to access, and then spinning up AWS instances in an automated manner, and then transferring of ownership and that stuff. For L2 specifically, it just comes down to if their sequencer is decentralized or not. Because the majority of L2s, a lot of the sequencers are currently centralized, and that means we can't openly go and fractionalize these L2s without obviously approaching them and talking to them and being like, hey, we want to come and fractionalize. We're going to bring a bunch of collateral in, and TVL, all that stuff. Give us access specifically, but it's always better to do it in a decentralized manner, where we don't have to go specifically to the specific foundation or CEOs or whoever it may be, reps of that project.
Okay. I get it, and that actually takes me to the very final point, right? Because it all comes, it all comes together in a very interesting time, right? We're typically narrowing a little bit different, weaker. The September. The September is the basically weakest part on the of the entire puzzle throughout the entire year. And right after we have Q4 around the corner, which typically, for Bitcoin it returns 50% on average. October 22% itself, November 40% approximately, December a little bit lagging there, weakest of the 3 year. Although there is the end of the light at the end of a tunnel, basically, for us as the cryptocurrency traders, investors, enthusiasts, admirers, if you will. And what do we expect, Reggie, for the final question? To for the next big moves releases for Hydro around the corner for Q4 or the next year.
So I'll talk about numbers in terms of targets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our big number, because from a maths perspective and then forecasting perspective, is 100,000 publishers.
Hmm.
With 100,000 publishers, things become very interesting. To just put in perspective, we have about 16 or 17,000 right now. It becomes extremely interesting at that point because that's a large user base that's coming into Hydro and Web3 specifically. So how we can monetize all those publishers and then their end users as well becomes interesting. So one feature just I would say that we haven't spoke about is something called a community plus or loyalty.
Hmm.
So if you have site A and site B, they're providing similar content, but one is giving you some form of rewards back, whatever it may be, right? You're more likely to go to the site that's giving you some kind of rewards, right? Just human psychology and greed. So what we opt in with the loyalty program is that publishers can share percent of their earnings with their end users, just as a form of stickiness, retention, right? And then we up the ante even more by introducing Community Plus. So any site that has loyalty enabled, end users can go and pay $5 a year or 50 cents a month, and what they can do from there is they'll get double rewards. So you're making $1 as loyalty on a site, we'll match that and make it $2, and then you get access to a host of features within loyalty itself. So access to loyalty programs via partners is interesting angle we're working. That opens up. That's how we want to tap into the end user base, because what we can reach is about 800 million people, right, into the publishers. But when we talk about end users, you're talking about people who basically use the internet, and that goes to close to 3-4 billion, and numbers go wild from there. But yeah, the next target, the next quarter or so, is definitely about 100,000 publishers and TG. That's it, I would say, and just scaling, moving up. Yeah.
100K is a good number for many different reasons, right? Let's stick with that, everybody. And well, where can everybody learn more for all those who are coming new to Hydro? Where can we learn more about that?
For sure. I think the easiest place is just the website, hydro.online, or join our Telegram or Twitter. Yeah.
Awesome. And I fully encourage everybody, each and every single person, to go ahead and give a check and give a follow again to Hydro Online, as well as Reggie, REGG GGI 3J.
I3J, yeah.
That's it. I3J. I love it so much, man. And well, everybody, there's been a lot of good content. There's been a lot of good wisdom, incredible, even tech details right there. If you heard it from Reggie, you're not gonna be surprised because Reggie has been around for a long time and a very successful person, like I said. So I truly appreciate your time on behalf of the Birb Nest community, and I want to congratulate to everybody who watched and stuck with us, because there's so much more coming, and the 100K is going to stay with us in many different sorts and angles. Reggie, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, spending your time and sharing your knowledge. It's been a true pleasure.
My man, thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure and honor.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, let's see you